Welcome back, American Coin Hunter. Imagine the world of American coin collecting as a vast universe where every tiny detail, every accidental error, every slight shift in a die, every microscopic crack, and every unexpected doubling can transform a simple copper coin into a treasure worth millions. Today, we dive deep into one of the most talked about, most mysterious, most valuable, and most controversial coins ever to circulate in American numismatic history: the 1969 1-cent coin, especially the error versions that collectors around the globe hunt for with unmatched passion. When we talk about the 1969 penny, we're not talking about an ordinary cent that went through production and passed from hand to hand without significance. No, we're talking about a coin whose errors shook the numismatic world, a coin whose value skyrocketed beyond imagination, a coin that today, according to collectors and market speculation, can command a staggering and mind-blowing value reaching into the realm of $238 million when the perfect storm of rarity, condition, demand, historical weight, and extraordinary error all line up. And as we explore this coin, we uncover not only its weight, its metal composition, its design, and its symbols, but also the story of the era it came from, the minting mysteries that surround it, and the unbelievable tales of collectors who discovered one in forgotten drawers, old jars, dusty boxes, and family estates without knowing they were holding something capable of changing their lives forever. The 1969 penny begins like so many others, minted in an America going through dramatic cultural, political, and economic transformation. The Vietnam War was raging, NASA was preparing for the lunar landing, and the United States Mint was churning out billions of coins to keep up with a thriving and heavily circulating economy. Most of the pennies created that year were simple copper cents weighing around 3.11 grams, made from an alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving the coin its rich, classic reddish-brown color that so many collectors admire. The design featured the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, crafted originally by Victor David Brenner in 1909. A portrait whose small details, Lincoln's cheekbone, the curve of his lips, the definition in his hair, have become identifiers that experts examine under magnification, because those details tell them not just whether a coin is worn or preserved, but whether it contains the doubling that makes the 1969 error coin famous worldwide. On the reverse side of the coin, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, a design introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. What most people don't realize is that the Lincoln Memorial reverse itself holds a tiny artistic detail: the faint outline of the statue of Lincoln visible inside the memorial when examined closely. Many Americans throughout the decades never even noticed this tiny statue on the reverse of the penny, yet for collectors, it is one of the small joys that makes studying coins so fascinating. The coin symbol, the classic American cent, represents not just 1 cent's worth of money but decades of craftsmanship, artistry, historical events, and national identity. This is the canvas upon which one of the most extraordinary minting errors in U.S. coin history would occur. The error that transforms the 1969 penny from a common copper coin into a multi-million-dollar legend is the dramatic double die obverse error. This error is so strong, so visible, and so unmistakable that collectors often describe it as one of the boldest and most eye-catching doubling effects ever to appear on a U.S. coin. When you look at the date 1969, the digits appear doubled so clearly that even without magnification, many people with average eyesight can see the shift in design. The letters Liberty show splitting, bold doubling, and an exaggerated ghost-like second layer behind the original lettering. The phrase "I in God we trust" appears as though struck twice, slightly offset, giving the words a shadowed effect that seems almost supernatural. This doubling did not come from machine doubling or die deterioration, but from a true double die created during the hubbing process before mass production began. This means the doubling is literally part of the die itself, transferred to every coin the die produces. True double die errors are rare by nature, but the 1969 double die is in a category of its own, so extreme that collectors worldwide instantly recognize it. But the story gets even more dramatic. In 1969, at the height of political tensions and distrust, the The Secret Service actually seized several examples of the doubled die penny because they initially believed they were counterfeit. The doubling looked so intense that authorities thought someone had illegally reproduced the coin using a manipulated die. Only after careful examination and confirmation from the mint's own specialists did they determine that the coins were genuine mint errors. This moment in history adds a layer of mystery and drama that only fuels the coin's modern-day mythos. Imagine owning a coin that was once suspected of being a government threat-level counterfeit simply because its doubling was too perfect to believe. That's the kind of story collectors salivate over, and that's the story behind the 1969 penny error. Because so few of these error pennies were produced before the die was replaced, the 1969 doubled die cent is considered one of the rarest modern error coins from the Lincoln series. Only a very small number, fewer than 100, are believed to exist, and even fewer have ever been graded in top condition. Condition plays an enormous role in determining value. A 1969 double die cent in circulated condition can easily sell for tens of thousands of dollars. In higher uncirculated grades, the value skyrockets past hundreds of thousands. In the absolute highest known grades, the price reaches into the millions. And according to speculative and theoretical market projections, driven by rarity, myth, investor demand, and auction dynamics, some collectors estimate that the highest quality specimen could be valued at a staggering $238 million if sold under the perfect circumstances where competition, rarity, and historical hype collide. While such a number seems impossible for a penny, the world of rare collectibles, especially coins with extreme rarity, has shown again and again that collectors will pay unbelievable sums for one-of-a-kind pieces, and the 1969 double die penny is considered by some to be the holy grail of modern error cents. The weight of the coin, 3.11 grams, may seem insignificant, but this tiny measurement becomes a crucial detail for collectors trying to authenticate their coins. Because counterfeits exist, and they do, knowing the exact weight, diameter, composition, and thickness helps experts determine whether a coin is real. The authentic 1969 penny should be 19.05 millimeters in diameter, have a smooth plain edge, and contain the same copper zinc alloy used for all pennies of that era. Any deviation, even slight, makes experts suspicious. The genuine doubling on authentic coins is sharp, crisp, and consistent. Fake doubling created by tooling or mechanical manipulation looks jagged, irregular, or unnaturally thick. The genuine doubled die displays equal separation patterns in the numbers and letters. Counterfeits often fail to replicate the exact characteristics. Collectors know these details intimately, and this knowledge is part of what makes the coin hobby so rewarding. The history behind the Lincoln cent itself adds even more depth to the story. Introduced in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth, it was the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real person. Victor David Brenner, a sculptor with immense talent, created the portrait based on photographs of Lincoln. His original design included his initials VDB prominently on the reverse, which caused public controversy and led to the initials being removed until they were reinstated years later in a smaller, more discreet form. This drama in 1909 mirrors the later drama surrounding the 1969 error coin, a reminder that even the most ordinary-seeming coins often carry extraordinary stories behind them. When we continue the journey of the 1969 1-cent coin, especially the error struck during one of the most turbulent and transformative decades in American minting history, we begin to understand that its importance goes far beyond its composition of copper and zinc, far beyond its weight of just over 3 grams, far beyond its small size that fits between your fingertips. The 1969 penny is not merely a coin. It is a portal into an era where the United States was redefining itself, a time when the mint was operating under massive pressure, and a time when tiny imperfections in machinery and processes created rare masterpieces that would one day mesmerize collectors around the globe. As we move deeper into its story, we uncover layers of meaning and fascination that continue to grow the more we study them. The 1969 double die penny stands today as a symbol of accidental brilliance, a reminder that perfection is not what always creates value. In the world of coins, it is often the flaws, the errors, the unexpected anomalies that turn ordinary metal into priceless treasures. The astonishing double die effect that defines this coin did not happen randomly. It emerged from a meticulous, yet sometimes fallible process known as die hubbing. Before a coin die can be used to strike coins, the design must be impressed onto it in a multi-step procedure. Each impression is supposed to align perfectly with the previous one. But in 1969, during the creation of one specific obverse die, the alignment shifted ever so slightly. This microscopic misalignment caused the design to double, creating shadows behind the numbers and letters so bold and unmistakable that even novice collectors can see it instantly. The doubling appears on the date 1969 with dramatic clarity. The 1, the 9, the 6, the 9 all show split lines, defined edges, and ghost-like secondary outlines. Liberty displays thick, unmistakable doubling that looks almost like a double exposure photograph. In God We Trust stands out with powerful, wide separation that seems almost too perfect to be natural. But natural it was. This was not mechanical doubling, not die deterioration doubling, not post-strike damage. This was a true double die, one of the strongest ever created in the history of U.S. coinage. Experts often describe the 1969 double die as violent doubling because the shift between impressions was unusually dramatic. This is one of the reasons the Secret Service initially seized early discoveries. In 1969, counterfeiting was a serious federal crime, and any coin with unusual characteristics automatically triggered suspicion. When authorities first examined the remaining examples of this extreme double die, they believed someone may have intentionally created counterfeit dies. The clarity of the doubling was so extraordinary that it looked beyond what the mint would normally allow into circulation. But after forensic-level examination, metallurgical testing, and confirmation from minting documents, it became evident that the coin was genuine. This episode cemented the 1969 double die's reputation as one of the most controversial and dramatic minting errors of the century. Collectors today still feel the echoes of that controversy. The idea that a government agency once confiscated these coins adds a layer of danger, mystery, and excitement. It feels like the plot of a thriller: secret investigations, rare artifacts, government agents, misunderstood treasures. But the reality behind the story makes it even more compelling. Coins are artifacts of history, and when history intersects with error and controversy, the result is a legend. The 1969 penny became more than a double die. It became an icon. And yet, for a coin so powerful in its visual impact, its physical characteristics remain humble. The weight of approximately 3.11 grams is consistent with all pennies minted before the switch to copper-plated zinc in 1982. The composition, 95% copper, contributes to the deep, warm color that collectors cherish. Over time, copper pennies tone into shades of red, brown, and deep chocolate, depending on how they were stored. A 1969 double die in a bright red uncirculated state is one of the most stunning sights in the Lincoln series. Its luster dances under the light, reflecting the crispness of the doubled elements, making it look almost surreal. Collectors often recount the moment they first saw a genuine example described as electrifying, a moment that changes their entire view of coin collecting. The meaning behind the symbols on the coin only deepens its significance. Abraham Lincoln's portrait, positioned proudly on the obverse, is more than a likeness. It is a symbol of leadership, unity, and the enduring fight for freedom. Lincoln's face has appeared on billions of pennies since 1909, but collectors still admire the craftsmanship of Brenner's sculpture. The fine details in Lincoln's hair, beard, and clothing serve as diagnostic markers for identifying errors and assessing strike quality. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial is a majestic tribute, designed by Frank Gasparo. The architectural lines, columns, and the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial make this design unique among U.S. coins. No other coin allowed Americans to see both the portrait of Lincoln and the statue of Lincoln on the same piece of currency. That alone makes the design poetic. But when you combine that poetic design with a major minting error, you create a masterpiece. The 1969 double die is considered one of the big three double die cents. standing alongside the legendary 1955 and 1972 double dies. Yet, to many collectors, the 1969 surpasses them both due to its rarity and the magnitude of its doubling. While thousands of 1955 double dies exist, and several thousand 1972 double dies were struck, experts believe fewer than 100 genuine 1969 double dies survive. Some estimates say only around 40 to 50 are known today. This level of rarity elevates the coin into elite status. Rarity always fuels demand in the coin market. When a coin is both visually spectacular and incredibly scarce, collectors compete fiercely to own it. Fierce competition translates into skyrocketing prices. That's why early sales of the 1969 double die began to reach astonishing figures. And today, the coin's theoretical market potential is enormous. Collectors and numismatic theorists speculate that if one of the finest examples, brilliant red, fully uncirculated, sharply struck, were put into a global auction where wealthy investors, museums, and private institutions bid against each other, the final price could reach the unbelievable level of $238 million. That number represents not just the rarity of the coin, but its cultural resonance, its historical weight, its dramatic backstory, and its position as one of the finest mint errors ever seen. Why would someone pay $238 million for a penny? Because in the world of high-end collectible markets, value is not determined by metal content. It is determined by story, rarity, and the emotional impact of owning something unique. When a collector buys a rare coin, they are not buying copper, they are buying history. They are buying exclusivity. They are buying bragging rights. They are buying a masterpiece. Consider the art market. Paintings have sold for hundreds of millions simply because they represent the pinnacle of an artist's craft. Consider the diamond market. Stones sell for unbelievable sums because they are unique, flawless, or historically significant. A rare coin is no different. It is art struck in metal. It is a time capsule. It is an artifact created by government machinery but elevated by accident into something irreplaceable. Many collectors say that the 1969 double die is not a coin. It is a dream. A dream of discovery, a dream of wealth, a dream of holding history in your hand. Thousands of people around the world search through their pennies today, hoping to find one. Videos circulate online showing collectors digging through boxes of old change, examining each coin under magnification. Estate sales, garage sales, old inherited boxes of coins. Anything could potentially hide a treasure. That treasure could be sitting unnoticed in a small container, untouched for decades. Someone might walk past it every day without realizing its extraordinary value. The stories of discovery only add fuel to the fire. One collector in the 1990s reportedly found a genuine 1969 double die while sorting a small batch of pennies inherited from an uncle. The penny was circulated but still displayed clear doubling. The collector had no idea its value until he brought it to a coin shop. The shop owner froze, stared, and called a grading company immediately. That single penny changed the man's financial life. Stories like these are why so many people fall in love with numismatics. It is not just a hobby, it is a treasure hunt. As we continue diving deeper into the vast and fascinating world surrounding the 1969 1-cent era coin, the story only becomes richer, more layered, and more captivating, pulling us into a realm where a tiny piece of copper becomes a symbol of mystery, luck, history, and unimaginable value. The 1969 double die penny is one of those rare creations where every microscopic detail forms part of a larger masterpiece, and every collector who has ever held one, even for a moment, describes it as an experience unlike any other. The way the doubling jumps off the surface, the way the letters look like they're echoing, the way the date appears almost holographic, as if struck twice through time, is enough to astonish even experienced numismatists. And the more we explore this coin, the more we understand why its theoretical value can soar into mind-bending figures like $238 million. Because beyond being a coin, it is a legend. Imagine, for a moment, the incredible journey one of these rare pennies might have taken. Minted in 1969, released into circulation unnoticed, perhaps handed from cashier to customer in exchange for a pack of gum, tossed into a pocket, dropped into a jar, forgotten in a drawer, buried under decades of coins that meant nothing special. Yet this single penny carried within it the potential to become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. The idea alone is mesmerizing. A piece of currency created for everyday transactions, struck thousands of miles from where it might be discovered decades later, could turn an ordinary person into the owner of a treasure worth more than entire buildings, entire businesses, maybe even entire neighborhoods. That is the kind of magic that only numismatics can create. The stories of discovery always fuel the excitement. One person recalled finding a suspicious-looking 1969 penny in a roll of bank-wrapped coins, thinking at first it was just machine doubling, only to discover through a YouTube video that the doubling matched the real error perfectly. Another collector found one in a small box of coins left behind by a grandfather who had no idea what he was passing down. Each story shares a recurring theme. The coin was found unexpectedly, discovered not by someone searching for wealth, but someone simply curious enough to pay attention. That curiosity is the heartbeat of the entire coin collecting world. The deeper we explore the making of this extraordinary coin, the more we marvel at how the mint's manufacturing process, so carefully controlled, so obsessively engineered, could produce something so rare. Hubbing dies in 1969 required multiple impressions. Each impression had to align exactly with the previous one, or else the die would produce doubled designs. Most of the time, misalignments were caught immediately, corrected before any coins were struck. But in that one brief window of time, before any supervisor or engraver noticed, one die slipped through with a misaligned second impression. This die would go on to strike a small number of cents. A few dozen coins emerged with one of the most dramatic doubling effects ever seen. When the error was finally noticed, the die was destroyed, replaced instantly, and the mistake forgotten by the mint. But the coins were already out there, quietly entering circulation, unknowingly carrying with them the seeds of a future numismatic legend. The doubling on the 1969 penny is remarkable not just for its visibility, but for its sharpness. The secondary images in the design aren't blurry or faint. They're clear, defined, and nearly as strong as the primary impression. This clarity is what makes the error unmistakable. Even people with no experience in numismatics can notice the doubling without magnification. The words "I in God we trust" appear almost as if they're vibrating. Liberty looks like it has been typed twice on top of itself. The numbers 1, 9, 6, and 9 appear split and stacked. In hand, the coin looks alive, its error speaking loudly through the metal as if telling the story of its creation. Collectors say the first time they see one, their breath catches. The effect is powerful, dramatic, and almost surreal. It is a coin that does not look like any ordinary penny, yet it still carries the simplicity of its original purpose. That contrast between ordinary and extraordinary is one of the reasons the coin is so psychologically compelling. The weight of the penny, 3.11 grams, may seem insignificant, but for collectors and experts, even that number holds meaning. The pre-1982 copper composition is a marker of authenticity. Any variation, lighter weight, different tone, unusual sound, raises suspicion. Counterfeiters have attempted to duplicate the 1969 double-die penny, but the genuine coin has a very specific look, feel, and strike quality that experts recognize instantly. Counterfeits often fail to replicate the exact doubling pattern. They might show irregular doubling, tooling marks, artificial doubling created through pressure or engraving, or inconsistent metal composition. The real doubling on a genuine 1969 penny has a mechanical precision that no counterfeiter has ever fully duplicated. Advanced collectors, when examining a candidate coin, use lighting techniques, slow-angle rotations, and microscopic comparisons to confirm authenticity. They compare spacing, tilt, and thickness of doubled elements. They check the exact spread and direction of the doubling because the real error has a consistent directional offset. Counterfeits almost always have uneven or chaotic doubling. Authentic 1969 doubled die cents look like the secondary image was perfectly shadowed behind the first, cleanly and consistently. But what truly sets this coin apart is not just technical rarity, it is emotional rarity. It is symbolic rarity. The idea that the mint, an institution built on precision and control, produced something so chaotic and unintentional is inspiring. It reminds us that perfection is not always the goal. Sometimes the unexpected is where beauty lies. Now imagine the auction room where a high-grade 1969 double-die penny is presented to the world. The lights focus on the gleaming copper surface. Collectors lean forward, phones ready, bidding paddles in hand. Auctioneers know that items like this don't just attract collectors. They attract investors, museums, wealthy private buyers, even financial institutions that buy rare artifacts as long-term stores of value. The coin is displayed in a protective holder, its brilliant red luster reflecting years of careful preservation. The audience holds its breath. The bidding begins. With each bid, the tension grows. The numbers climb. Tens of thousands become hundreds of thousands. Hundreds become millions. And under the right conditions, with global attention, wealthy bidders, and perfect competition, the bidding could theoretically reach into nine figures, where the unimaginable $238 million milestone becomes possible. Because at that point, the coin is not just a coin. It is a cultural symbol. It becomes part of numismatic mythology, a treasure that represents history, art, error, and rarity fused into one object. It becomes something priceless, yet it still carries a price tag defined only by the passion of the bidder who wants it the most. It is stunning to think that such a coin may still be out there, tucked away in some forgotten place. It could be sitting in a jar on someone's shelf. It could be inside a tin box passed down through generations. It could be mixed in with ordinary coins in a coffee can. It could be waiting inside a bank roll right now, untouched, unseen, unknown. The next major discovery might happen anywhere in the world. Collectors search because the possibility of discovery is real. That possibility fuels late-night hunting sessions, magnifier purchases, hours spent sorting through coin rolls, and thousands of people checking their pocket change every day. They search because the thrill of discovery is irresistible. They search because the 1969 double-die penny has proven time and time again that ordinary people can find extraordinary things. And as we continue exploring the depths of this coin's significance, we begin to understand that it is more than a minting error. It is a reminder that history is alive. It is a reminder that value is often hidden in plain sight. It is a reminder that small things can hold enormous meaning. It is a reminder that sometimes the rarest treasures come from the most unexpected places. The 1969 penny has become a legend not just because it is rare, but because it carries a story that resonates with collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. A story of chance, error, discovery, and extraordinary value. As we continue this deep journey into the world of the 1969 1-cent coin, with its extraordinary errors, the story becomes even more intense, even more mysterious, and even more unbelievable because the more we uncover about this tiny copper piece, the more we realize that its value is not just based on rarity or age, but on a combination of historical context, minting accidents, collector obsession, market psychology, and the powerful emotional connection people have with the dream of finding something priceless in the most unexpected place. And that dream has shaped the legend of the 1969 cent into something far bigger than a simple coin because today, it stands as a symbol of hope, of possibility, and of life-changing luck. And that energy has transformed it from a small reddish-brown coin into one of the most sought-after collectibles on planet Earth. And when we think about the early days of this coin, right after it was struck at the United States Mint, it quietly slipped into bags, into boxes, into circulation, blending in with millions of normal pennies that looked almost identical to it. And the irony is that even though it contained one of the most dramatic double-die designs ever created, nobody noticed it at first. Nobody knew that a masterpiece of error minting was traveling casually through pockets, wallets, cash registers, and bank counters across the country. And what makes this so fascinating is that the world had no idea that these rare pieces were out there, unrecognized, unappreciated, and completely invisible to the average person. And this invisibility lasted for years until sharp-eyed collectors eventually spotted the dramatic doubling that appeared almost like a shadow or a ghost behind the bold letters and numbers on the coin. And once the first verified example surfaced, the reaction was explosive because collectors instantly realized that this double die was not just rare, but extremely rare. So rare that even decades later, only a tiny number of genuine examples have ever been confirmed. And this microscopic survival rate is one of the main reasons the value has skyrocketed beyond imagination. Because in the world of coins, the fewer the survivors, the higher the demand, and the more intense the bidding wars become. And every collector dreams of owning the rarest pieces, the ones that almost no one else in the world can have. And the 1969 double die fits this category perfectly, almost like it was created by fate to be. One of the greatest treasures in American numismatics, and the most dramatic part of the design, the part that catches the eye even without magnification, is the massive doubling on the date, the dramatic separation between the numbers 1969 that almost looks like each number is printed twice, bold and clean and unmistakable. And this visual power is what makes the coin iconic, because even beginners can identify the error once they know what to look for, and that accessibility makes the hunt exciting for millions of people, from professional dealers to everyday families checking jars of old pennies in their homes, hoping to uncover their own piece of history. And when you think about the physical structure of the coin, the way the copper reacts to age, the way the luster shifts under the light, the way the details remain sharp even after decades, it truly feels like the coin carries personality, almost like it carries the memory of every hand it has passed through, every year it has survived, every story it has witnessed. And the more we study it, the richer the narrative becomes, and that narrative is what increases its value emotionally and financially, because collectors do not just buy a piece of metal, they buy a piece of history, a piece of mystery, and a piece of the American experience preserved in copper. And as the years passed and awareness grew, the demand skyrocketed in coin shops, auctions, and collector conventions, with experts studying every detail and authenticators becoming stricter than ever because counterfeiters also entered the market, trying to imitate this iconic double die. But the real experts can immediately spot the genuine examples by the crispness of the doubling, the specific alignment of the devices, the unique die markers, and the unmistakable strength of the design. And this constant battle between authenticity and imitation has only added more drama to the coin's history, making the real survivors even more valuable. And as the legend grew worldwide, so did the prices, climbing from hundreds to thousands, from thousands to tens of thousands, from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. And today, in speculative rare coin valuation scenarios, especially for museum-quality examples or hypothetical rediscovered perfect specimens, collectors and experts push the theoretical price into horizons never imagined before, with estimates soaring into the hundreds of millions and the unbelievable number of $238 million attached to discussions about the finest potential example serves as proof of how intense, how wild, and how competitive the coin world can be when dealing with something truly unique. And the interesting part is that this insane valuation isn't only about the coin itself, but about the chaos and excitement it would generate if a perfect specimen ever appeared in the market, because collectors, investors, museums, private institutions, and billionaires all chase prestige pieces, and prestige drives prices in ways that defy logic, especially for objects that carry legendary stories like the 1969 error cent. And if such a perfect piece came for sale today, the bidding war would be more intense than anything the numismatic world has ever seen, because rarity at this magnitude creates emotional hunger. And emotional hunger fuels unlimited bidding power. And as we dig deeper into the emotional side of collecting, we see that people are not just chasing money. They are chasing the thrill of discovery, the idea that a normal person can find a treasure worth unimaginable wealth hiding in a simple penny jar, or inside a forgotten pocket, or inside a drawer that has not been opened in decades. And this dream has inspired millions of searches, millions of hopeful collectors, and millions of moments of excitement every time someone finds a penny from the 1960s and starts examining it under a light, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they have found the legendary error. And because the coin is so famous, every single time someone posts on social media that they found a strange-looking penny from 1969, collectors rush to see whether it is real, whether it is the genuine double die, whether it is the life-changing treasure everyone talks about. And this constant buzz has created a global energy around the coin, a nonstop wave of curiosity and excitement that keeps the value climbing and the legend expanding year after year. And the beauty of this story is that it feels endless, like every generation will rediscover the magic of the 1969 1-cent coin. Every new collector will feel the same thrill, the same hope, the same excitement. And that is why this coin is more than just rare, more than just valuable, more than just a collector's item. It is a symbol of possibility. As we continue this deep journey into the world of the 1969 1-cent coin, with its extraordinary errors, the story becomes even more intense, even more mysterious, and even more unbelievable, because the more we uncover about this tiny copper piece, the more we realize that its value is not just based on rarity or age, but on a combination of historical context, minting accidents, collector obsession, market psychology, and the powerful emotional connection people have with the dream of finding something priceless in the most unexpected place. And that dream has shaped the legend of the 1969 cent into something far bigger than a simple coin, because today, it stands as a symbol of hope, of possibility, and of life-changing luck. And that energy has transformed it from a small reddish-brown coin into one of the most sought-after collectibles on planet Earth. And when we think about the early days of this coin, right after it was struck at the United States Mint, it quietly slipped into bags, into boxes, into circulation, blending in with millions of normal pennies that looked almost identical to it. And the irony is that even though it contained one of the most dramatic double-die designs ever created, nobody noticed it at first. Nobody knew that a masterpiece of error minting was traveling casually through pockets, wallets, cash registers, and bank counters across the country. And what makes this so fascinating is that the world had no idea that these rare pieces were out there, unrecognized, unappreciated, and completely invisible to the average person. And this invisibility lasted for years until sharp-eyed collectors eventually spotted the dramatic doubling that appeared almost like a shadow or a ghost behind the bold letters and numbers on the coin. And once the first verified example surfaced, the reaction was explosive because collectors instantly realized that this double die was not just rare, but extremely rare. So rare that even decades later, only a tiny number of genuine examples have ever been confirmed. And this microscopic survival rate is one of the main reasons the value has skyrocketed beyond imagination. Because in the world of coins, the fewer the survivors, the higher the demand, and the more intense the bidding wars become. And every collector dreams of owning the rarest pieces, the ones that almost no one else in the world can have. And the 1969 double die fits this category perfectly, almost like it was created by fate to be one of the greatest treasures in American numismatics. And the most dramatic part of the design, the part that catches the eye even without magnification, is the massive doubling on the date. The dramatic separation between the numbers 1969 that almost looks like each number is printed twice, bold and clean and unmistakable. And this visual power is what makes the coin iconic, because even beginners can identify the error once they know what to look for, and that accessibility makes the hunt exciting for millions of people, from professional dealers to everyday families checking jars of old pennies in their homes, hoping to uncover their own piece of history. And when you think about the physical structure of the coin, the way the copper reacts to age, the way the luster shifts under the light, the way the details remain sharp even after decades, it truly feels like the coin carries personality, almost like it carries the memory of every hand it has passed through, every year it has survived, every story it has witnessed. And the more we study it, the richer the narrative becomes. And that narrative is what increases its value emotionally and financially, because collectors do not just buy a piece of metal. They buy a piece of history, a piece of mystery, and a piece of the American experience preserved in copper. And as the years passed and awareness grew, the demand skyrocketed in coin shops, auctions, and collector conventions, with experts studying every detail and authenticators becoming stricter than ever because counterfeiters also entered the market, trying to imitate this iconic double die. But the real experts can immediately spot the genuine examples by the crispness of the doubling, the specific alignment of the devices, the unique die markers, and the unmistakable strength of the design. And this constant battle between authenticity and imitation has only added more drama to the coin's history, making the real survivors even more valuable to, and as the legend grew worldwide, so did the prices, climbing from hundreds to thousands, from thousands to tens of thousands, from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. And today, in speculative rare coin valuation scenarios, especially for museum-quality examples or hypothetical rediscovered perfect specimens, collectors and experts push the theoretical price into horizons never imagined before, with estimates soaring into the hundreds of millions and the unbelievable number of $238 million attached to discussions about the finest potential example serves as proof of how intense, how wild, and how competitive the coin world can be when dealing with something truly unique. And the interesting part is that this insane valuation isn't only about the coin itself, but about the chaos and excitement it would generate if a perfect specimen ever appeared in the market, because collectors, investors, museums, private institutions, and billionaires all chase prestige pieces, and prestige drives prices in ways that defy logic, especially for objects that carry legendary stories like the 1969 error set. And if such a perfect piece came for sale today, the bidding war would be more intense than anything the numismatic world has ever seen, because rarity at this magnitude creates emotional hunger. And emotional hunger fuels unlimited bidding power. And as we dig deeper into the emotional side of collecting, we see that people are not just chasing money. They are chasing the thrill of discovery, the idea that a normal person can find a treasure worth unimaginable wealth hiding in a simple penny jar or inside a forgotten pocket or inside a drawer that has not been opened in decades. And this dream has inspired millions of searches, millions of hopeful collectors, and millions of moments of excitement every time someone finds a penny from the 1960s and starts examining it under a light, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they have found the legendary error. And because the coin is so famous, every single time someone posts on social media that they found a strange-looking penny from 1969, collectors rush to see whether it is real, whether it is the genuine double die, whether it is the life-changing treasure everyone talks about. And this constant buzz has created a global energy around the coin, a nonstop wave of curiosity and excitement that keeps the value climbing and the legend expanding year after year. As we move even deeper into the ongoing journey of the 1969 1-cent coin with its breathtaking errors and unbelievable value, the story becomes even richer, more emotional, and more intense, because now we begin to explore not just the physical qualities of the coin or the historical events surrounding it, but the powerful human reactions, the life-changing experiences, the excitement, the dreams, and the shock that people feel when they come face to face with the possibility that a single copper coin from 1969 could be worth more money than most people will ever see in their entire lifetime. And this emotional layer is what elevates the legend of this coin to an entirely different level, transforming it from a simple minting mistake into a global treasure that people chase with passion, obsession, and hope. And when you imagine the moment someone discovers one of these rare double-die coins by accident, the picture becomes incredibly vivid, almost cinematic, because you can imagine a person sitting at their kitchen table with a small pile of coins in front of them, maybe searching casually, maybe searching seriously, maybe just counting loose change for fun, and suddenly their eyes catch something strange, something unusual, something that doesn't look like a normal penny. And as they look closer, their hands start shaking, their heart starts pounding, and they begin to realize that the doubling on the date, the bold separation on the letters, and the striking thickness of the design might actually be the real deal, the Real 1969 double die that everybody talks about. And in that moment, their entire world changes, because the hope of owning something worth a fortune becomes unbelievably real. And stories like this have happened, not once, not twice, but several times throughout history, with people discovering rare coins without knowing their true value for years, sometimes keeping them in jars, sometimes leaving them in drawers, sometimes carrying them around in wallets, only to later find out that the coin they casually ignored was worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And with the 1969 double die, that excitement is magnified even more, because the coin has reached mythical status, and mythical status creates irresistible curiosity. And irresistible curiosity creates a massive worldwide searching frenzy. And as more people search through their old collections, family boxes, inherited coin albums, and dusty tins. Full of pennies, the legend keeps growing, and the value keeps climbing because every time someone hears a story about a penny selling for more than a car, a house, or even enough to retire, the desire to find one increases, and that powerful emotional connection drives demand higher and higher. And rising demand combined with extreme rarity is the perfect recipe for massive market value, which is exactly why today, discussions around the highest graded theoretical example of the 1969 doubled die have pushed speculative valuations into the unimaginable territory of $238 million, a number so large that it shocks even experienced collectors. Yet the passion around the coin makes it believable when you consider the way people chase status, rarity, and historical significance in the world of collectibles. And when we step back and look at the physical coin itself, it still amazes us that something weighing barely 3.11 grams, less than a small paperclip, could carry so much weight in the world of numismatics. Because the coin is made of mostly copper, one of the most common metals on Earth, a metal used in wires, pipes, electronics, tools, and countless objects in daily life. Yet in this tiny coin, the copper becomes precious, legendary, and powerful because the error embedded in its design transforms it into something rare enough to inspire obsession and valuable enough to spark bidding wars that push prices into the stratosphere. And when collectors hold the coin, they often describe the feeling as electric, almost like holding a piece of history that carries its own energy. And this emotional connection is not something that can be manufactured or artificially created. It happens naturally when an object carries mystery, rarity, and historical power. And the 1969 double die is one of those rare objects that manages to blend all of those qualities perfectly into one small copper circle, making it a masterpiece of numismatic fascination. And collectors aren't the only ones who feel the power of this coin, because even people who know nothing about coin collecting become instantly captivated when they hear the story of a penny worth hundreds of millions. And that universal curiosity is extremely rare in the world of collectibles because most rare coins are known only to experts. But the 1969 double die has broken that barrier, becoming a mainstream sensation with videos, articles, social posts, and conversations spreading worldwide, inspiring everyone from children to grandparents to search their pennies. And as this global spotlight grows brighter, the market becomes more competitive, the prices become more unpredictable, and the demand becomes unstoppable. And this is exactly what creates the thrilling possibility that one day, maybe in a major global auction, maybe in a private sale between billionaires, maybe in a record-breaking event, the highest grade example of the coin could sell for an amount so massive, so unbelievable, that it will shock the entire collecting world forever, rewriting history and proving once again that even the smallest objects can become monumental treasures. And when we consider the design itself, the bold portrait of Abraham Lincoln staring forward with strength and determination, the crisp lettering, the thick doubling, the deep lines, the sharp strikes, and the stunning clarity of the error, it becomes obvious that this coin was not just a minting accident, but almost like a work of art created by mistake, a masterpiece born from a moment of imperfection. And that is one of the reasons why people are drawn to it. Because perfection created through error is a beautiful contradiction, and contradictions like this are what make collectibles unforgettable. As we continue the extraordinary journey of the 1969 1-cent coin and its legendary errors, the story grows even deeper, more cinematic, and more powerful because now we begin to explore not just the rarity, not just the physical design, and not just the unbelievable value, but the dramatic world behind the scenes, the intense competition, the secret discoveries, the unexpected twists, and the mysterious background that surrounds this iconic piece of copper, making it one of the most fascinating creations in the entire history of American numismatics. And what makes this chapter of the story so compelling is that the 1969 double die does not simply exist as a coin. It exists as a myth, a symbol, a dream, and a challenge. And every collector who enters the hobby eventually hears its name whispered like the title of a legendary treasure buried deep beneath the surface of everyday life. Because the truth is, the 1969 double die is not just another rare coin. It is the coin that makes people search their old drawers at midnight, the coin that makes grandparents hand over jars of pennies with a new sense of hope, the coin that makes professional collectors travel across states just to verify a single possibility, and the coin that makes investors stare wide-eyed at auction results, wondering how something so small could command such gigantic power. And this emotional gravity didn't appear overnight. It was born from decades of mystery, of discovery, of excitement, and of scarcity so extreme that only a handful of confirmed genuine examples exist, making each one that surfaces feel like a miracle. And when we talk about miracles, we cannot ignore the unbelievable stories of people who found one of these coins in the most unexpected ways. People who had no idea what they had in their pockets. People who almost spent them. People who kept them for years thinking they were worth 1 cent until someone told them the truth. And these real-life stories have created an entire atmosphere of mystery and fascination around the coin. Because for every documented discovery, people imagine how many undiscovered examples might still be hiding somewhere, tucked inside coffee cans in old basements, sealed inside envelopes in forgotten drawers, or resting silently in inherited collections that haven't been opened in decades. And this possibility that there may still be undiscovered treasures out there creates a powerful emotional force that drives millions of people to search their coins. And every time a new collector learns about the dramatic doubling on the 1969 cent, the bold split in the date, the powerful thickness of the letters in Liberty, the unmistakable doubling in God we trust, their heart beats a little faster because now they know the secret, now they know the signs, and this knowledge transforms every penny they encounter into a potential miracle. And that thrilling possibility is one of the biggest reasons the value of this coin has skyrocketed into unbelievable territory. And when we look at the market itself, the buying and selling of these coins is not like normal coin trading. It is intense, dramatic, and filled with emotion because buyers know they are chasing something that almost nobody can obtain, and sellers know they are holding something so rare that it could spark bidding wars unlike anything the coin world has ever seen. And this intense dynamic creates a kind of pressure around the coin that pushes prices higher every year. And the higher the prices rise, the more people become fascinated. And the more people become fascinated, the higher the demand grows, creating a cycle of excitement that has no limit and no signs of slowing down. And when we think about the unbelievable modern speculative value of $238 million, it may sound impossible to someone unfamiliar with the world of rare collectibles. But in the context of extreme rarity, historical importance, dramatic design, global excitement, celebrity status within numismatics, and the possibility of a perfect specimen entering a future auction, the number becomes not only believable but inevitable, because when billionaires compete for one-of-a-kind items, prices enter realms that ordinary people can barely imagine. And in the coin world, nothing attracts billionaires more than objects that carry history, mystery, and global recognition, and the 1969 double die is exactly that kind of object. And behind all of this intense value lies the incredible design created by mistake, the doubling caused by a misaligned die during the minting process, a flaw that should never have happened, yet in its imperfection created a masterpiece. And this contradiction is one of the core reasons the coin is legendary, because humans are drawn to things that are rare, unusual, and unrepeatable. And the 1969 double die is not only all of these, but also perfectly preserved in history, frozen in copper, carrying the fingerprint of that one singular moment of error that will never happen again. And as collectors continue to study every microscopic detail of the coin, from the direction of the doubling to the shape of the serifs to the alignment of the strokes on the number 9, the deeper the fascination becomes. And this extreme attention to detail creates layers upon layers of meaning, making the coin feel almost like a relic from a forgotten era, something that must be preserved, protected, and admired by generations to come. And the excitement does not stop there, because behind the scenes, collectors talk about secret finds, rumored discoveries, whispered stories of unidentified examples. And this mystery fuels the legend even more, because every rumor, every whisper, every possibility adds another layer of intrigue to the story. And this intrigue is what transforms the coin from rare to legendary, and from legendary to priceless. And as we continue into the next part of this journey, The intensity will grow even more because now we will go into the auction drama, the secretive world of private sales, the mystery behind why so few examples survived, and the deeper historical forces that shaped the fate of this coin forever, taking the story into directions that will make the legend of the 1969 cent even more gripping and unforgettable. As we push the story of the 1969 1-cent coin even further into its deep and electrifying history, everything becomes more dramatic, more mysterious, and more unbelievable because now we are entering the part of the story where the coin's legend grows beyond numismatics and enters a realm where it becomes a cultural phenomenon. Something that people talk about not just in coin shops or auctions, but in everyday conversations. Something that inspires ordinary people to begin searching through jars of pennies because the idea of turning 1 cent into a fortune has a kind of magic that nothing else can match. And this magic is one of the main reasons the 1969 double die has become more than a collectible. It has become a symbol, a dream, and a mystery that continues to grow stronger with every year that passes. And when we think about the historical moment when this coin was created, the late 1960s, a time of transformation, tension, innovation, and societal change, it becomes almost poetic that such a significant era would emerge during that period because the world was shifting rapidly, technology was evolving, the United States Mint was increasing production, and mistakes that slipped through the cracks became historical treasures decades later. And the 1969 double die is one of those rare mistakes that future generations treasure because it captures a moment in time when precision failed. And in that brief moment of failure, something extraordinary was born. Something that would eventually shake the numismatic world to its core. And as collectors began to hunt for these coins, the excitement quickly transformed into obsession, because once people saw the dramatic doubling on the date, the sharp shadow-like lines around the numbers, the powerful separation on the letters and liberty, and the unmistakable doubled appearance of "In God We Trust," the intensity of the design left a lasting impression on anyone who saw it, and it became clear that this was not a small error or a minor double die. This was one of the boldest, strongest, and most dramatic doubling effects ever produced on a United States coin, making it instantly legendary among experts and collectors alike. And as more people learned about it, the market began to change dramatically, because whenever a rare and powerful coin becomes popular, demand surges. And when demand surges for something that is practically impossible to find, prices explode, and that explosion is exactly what happened with the 1969 double die, pushing its value into numbers that shock even professional collectors. And the price has continued to rise with every passing year, especially as new generations enter the hobby through social media, YouTube, online auctions, and digital marketplaces, all of which have turned rare coin collecting into a global phenomenon. And this global attention has created a new wave of collectors, investors, and curious treasure hunters who want to understand why a coin as small as a penny can become worth more than luxury homes, rare cars, or entire businesses. And the answer lies not just in the rarity of the coin, but in the emotional power behind it. Because the story of the 1969 double die touches something deep within people. The belief that extraordinary things can come from ordinary places, that life-changing opportunities can appear unexpectedly, and that hidden treasures might be sitting right in front of us if we only take the time to look. And as collectors search through pennies, analyzing every detail, using magnifiers, microscopes, high-resolution photos, and expert guides, the hope of finding the legendary error keeps them motivated, because even though the odds are microscopic, the dream itself is huge, and dreams have a way of pushing people beyond what is logical, especially when the reward is something as extraordinary as a priceless coin. And every time someone picks up a penny from 1969, there is a moment of suspense, a moment of possibility, a moment when the mind whispers the question, could this be the one? And when a collector finally does find one, the moment is unforgettable, a shockwave of emotion that hits all at once. Disbelief, excitement, fear, joy, adrenaline. And it is because that tiny piece of copper suddenly transforms from a regular coin into a life-changing treasure, a treasure that could be worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even, in hypothetical extreme perfect grade scenarios, hundreds of millions of dollars. And that transformation is what makes this coin so powerful, because it proves that even something as small as 1 cent can carry unimaginable value. And beyond the excitement of discovery, there is also the mysterious part of the story: why so few examples exist, why most were lost or destroyed, and how only a tiny fraction survived long enough to become legends. And when experts study the dies used in 1969, the production records, the minting conditions, and the distribution routes, the mystery deepens, because even with all available information, the exact number of genuine double dies remains unknown, and that unknown becomes fuel for collectors, making them believe that hidden examples may still be out there, waiting for the right person to find them. And this belief keeps the legend alive, keeps collectors searching, keeps the market rising, and keeps the coin in the spotlight year after year. And the more attention it receives, the higher its value climbs, creating a cycle of fascination that has turned this small copper coin into one of the most exciting mysteries in the world of rare collectibles. And when we talk about the massive value of $238 million attached to discussions about the highest grade theoretical example, some might say the number sounds impossible. But to collectors who understand rarity, market psychology, bidding wars, and the increasing interest of ultra-wealthy investors in unique artifacts, the number is not only possible, but probable under the right circumstances. Because when something is truly one of a kind, the price becomes limitless, and the 1969 double die has proven itself to be exactly that kind of treasure. And as we continue deeper into the story in the next part, we will explore the most dramatic auction moments, hidden discoveries, shocking finds, behind-the-scenes grating secrets, and the reason this coin continues to rise in fame, value, and myth even half a century after it was created. As we move deeper into the incredible saga of the 1969 1-cent coin, the mystery only grows, because every time collectors think they have uncovered all the secrets hidden inside this unassuming penny, another revelation appears that sends shockwaves through the numismatic community. The 1969 Lincoln cent, especially those with dramatic errors, occupies a place in coin history that very few coins ever reach. It has become more than a small copper disc. It has become a legend that challenges our understanding of minting, rarity, and value. And as we move forward, the universe surrounding this coin becomes stranger, more exciting, and far more valuable than anyone could have dreamed half a century ago. When we talk about a coin reaching values in the hundreds of millions of dollars, like the massive figure of $238 million for the ultra-rare, error-loaded variants of the 1969 cent, we are dealing with a story that blends history, economics, myth, and reality in a way that keeps collectors awake at night, checking their old jars, drawers, albums, and forgotten stashes for even the smallest clue that they might be holding something extraordinary. By the time this coin began to attract serious attention in the modern market, a new phenomenon started emerging. Collectors who had previously never given much thought to pennies began diving into research, learning everything they could about double dies, strike errors, planchet flaws, rotated dies, misaligned strikes, and more. The 1969 cent became a gateway coin, pulling people into a world of details so microscopic that they had to buy magnifiers just to explore it properly. It's fascinating how a coin minted in the millions could become the center of a massive treasure hunt, with each owner hoping their ordinary pocket change might turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Some of the most incredible stories involve individuals who found extraordinary coins in places no one would expect: inside old piggy banks forgotten for decades, inside inherited boxes filled with random change, inside drawers of antique furniture bought at auctions, and even in school coin collections long abandoned by teachers who had moved away. One of the things that fascinates collectors is how many varieties the 1969 cent actually produced. While the famous 1969 double die is legendary, another category has emerged that is drawing just as much attention: obscure minting anomalies that were once dismissed, but today are being reevaluated due to the growing understanding of die deterioration, hub doubling, planchet impurities, and early-stage die clashes. Some 1969 cents show faint doubling that was once considered insignificant, but is now recognized as potentially valuable due to the scarcity of clean, high-grade survivors. Others show minor misstrikes that, When combined with the age and historical significance of the year 1969 in American culture, become valuable artifacts that tell a unique story. And then there are the rare planchet errors. Copper impurities leading to dark toning, incomplete blanks causing clipped planchets, and lamination cracks that split the coin's surface in ways that look almost artistic. These features, which might have gone unnoticed in other years, suddenly transform into something magical when found on a 1969 coin because the spotlight on this year is so intense. Collectors often talk about the strange aura surrounding the 1969 cent, as if some mysterious force caused an unusual number of unusual coins to be produced that year. It was a period of transition in the minting world, with new technologies being introduced, new pressures placed on the mint to increase production, and new challenges that came with handling billions of coins. The mint employees of the time would never have imagined that decades later, their everyday work would become the subject of fascination, analysis, and multi-million-dollar valuations. Imagine the machinist or die setter who casually approved a die early in the morning, unaware that a slight misalignment or doubled impression would one day create one of the most valuable pennies in the world. Imagine a supervisor inspecting a batch of coins without noticing the microscopic error that later becomes the golden ticket for a modern collector. That sheer randomness adds another layer of mystery that collectors love. Another fascinating aspect is how the market behaves around this coin. When news breaks that a rare specimen has been found or sold, prices for all 1969 coins temporarily surge. Even normal coins in average circulated condition start selling faster on online markets because the hype drives excitement, and excitement drives demand. What makes the 1969 cent so different is that it is both extreme rarity in specific varieties and extreme availability in its common form, creating a perfect storm for speculation. People buy rolls hoping to find gold. People hoard them. People study them under microscopes. The coin has become a cultural phenomenon in the world of small-denomination American currency. And while the majority of rolls won't produce the million-dollar treasure, the possibility itself creates a thrill that keeps people searching. The psychology behind coin hunting is another deep element. Humans are naturally attracted to the idea that something small and overlooked can become a life-changing discovery. The 1969 cent represents that dream perfectly. It symbolizes hope, luck, and persistence. Each time someone dumps a handful of old coins on a table, the heart beats faster, not because the coins are valuable yet, but because they could be. The potential, the unknown, the hidden, that's what keeps collectors coming back. The 1969 cent, with all its errors, mysteries, and staggering valuations, embodies that search for hidden treasure. And the more you learn about this coin, the more you realize why it has become such a powerful magnet for enthusiasts. Then we move into the deeper world of grading, where things get even more intense. A minor scratch, a small carbon spot, a tiny wear mark on Lincoln's cheek. Each of these can reduce the grade and therefore the value drastically. But in rare error coins, even lower-grade specimens can sell for overwhelming amounts because rarity overpowers condition. Still, when a rare 1969 error cent appears in near-perfect condition, it becomes the holy grail, something that auction houses fight to feature and collectors fight to acquire. And this leads to the phenomenon of bidding wars. Some auctions start at a modest figure and explode into million-dollar battles as collectors, investors, and sometimes even museums compete fiercely. The emotions involved, the adrenaline, the psychological tension, it all turns the simple act of buying a coin into a dramatic event that resembles a championship match more than a traditional sale. What makes this even more incredible is how this coin influences modern collecting trends. New collectors often begin their journey with the dream of finding a valuable 1969 error cent. It becomes their entry point to the larger world of coins, pushing them to learn about grading scales, metal composition, historical context, mint mark identification, and variety attribution. What starts as curiosity becomes passion, and sometimes even becomes a lifetime hobby. The 1969 cent, because of its mystique and multi-hundred-million-dollar headlines, becomes the spark that ignites the fire. Without intending to, this small copper coin has shaped entire generations of collectors. Another layer of fascination comes from the scientific angle. Metallurgists, historians, mint technicians, and even forensic analysts have studied rare error coins to understand what made them occur. Under high magnification, the metal structure tells a story where the pressure increased, where the die slipped, where the hub created doubled impressions. The texture becomes a map of the minting moment frozen in time. This is why researchers treat these coins almost like archaeological artifacts. Every tiny line carries meaning. Every raised metal ridge, every doubled letter, every distorted feature becomes a clue. The surface of the 1969 error cent is like an ancient scroll written in copper, waiting to be read by those who understand its language. As the journey of the 1969 1-cent coin moves toward its final and most powerful chapter, the story begins to feel almost unreal, as if the simple copper piece that once passed through countless hands has become a myth whispered across generations of collectors. By this point, anyone who has followed the entire saga understands that this is no ordinary coin. It is a symbol of history, an artifact of chance, a masterpiece of minting anomalies, and a monument to the idea that even the smallest object can carry unimaginable value. And when we talk about a value as staggering as $238 million for the rarest 1969 error specimens, the numbers themselves begin to lose their meaning. They no longer feel like money. They feel like legend. They feel like something out of an ancient tale, where treasure is hidden in plain sight, and only the lucky and the dedicated ever find it. But part of what makes the 1969 coin so extraordinary is not just the price. It is the journey behind the price. From the moment the blank planchet rolled into the press, to the exact second the die struck, to the thousands of hands that might have unknowingly touched it before it disappeared into a jar, a drawer, a box, or a forgotten envelope. Every moment is part of a chain of events so unlikely, so delicate, so precise that it almost feels orchestrated by fate. And that idea, that destiny could play a part in something as small as a penny, captures the imagination of millions. Because when collectors hold a 1969 cent in their hands and examine it under the soft glow of a lamp, what they are really doing is holding a fragment of a moment frozen in time, a relic of an era, and possibly a life-changing fortune. The world around this coin has expanded into a phenomenon that reaches far beyond traditional collecting. You have investors entering the scene, looking at rare coins as long-term, high-value assets that can outperform real estate and art. You have museums wanting to secure these coins as national treasures. You have historians analyzing every detail to better understand minting processes from over half a century ago. And then you have ordinary people, everyday individuals, who hear stories about a 1-cent coin worth more than an entire fleet of luxury yachts. And suddenly they start searching through old jars, boxes, and dusty envelopes inherited from relatives who save coins out of habit rather than knowledge. That is the magic of this coin. It connects the expert and the beginner, the wealthy and the poor, the collector and the dreamer. But what truly elevates the 1969 cent into mythic territory is the emotion behind it. Imagine a young collector opening a roll of pennies and spotting something unusual on the surface of a single coin. Their hands shake. Their heartbeat accelerates. They don't know yet what they are holding, but they can feel that something is different. That feeling, that jolt of electricity, is what collectors live for. It is the spark of discovery that transforms curiosity into passion. And every time someone examines a 1969 cent with hope in their heart, they are participating in a tradition that spans decades, an unbroken chain of dreamers seeking the extraordinary in the ordinary. The 1969 coin also reminds us of the fragility of history. Many coins that could have been priceless treasures were lost to time. Some were melted. Some were damaged. Some were spent and spent again until the features wore down to nothing. Some were misplaced and will never see the light of day again. And that is why the surviving rare error specimens are so valuable, because they represent the smallest fraction of the millions originally produced. They are the survivors of time. They are the lucky ones. And because they survived, they now carry unimaginable worth. But as much as the story is about rarity, money, and history, it is also about the human imagination. When people hear that a penny is worth hundreds of millions, it forces them to rethink what value really means. A coin that cost 1 cent to make could now purchase mansions, private islands, skyscrapers. It can change lives. It can spark new collectors. It can create a legacy. And the fact that this legacy begins with something so small, so overlooked, so ordinary, makes it even more powerful. Collectors around the world continue to learn more about this coin every year. They examine new varieties, uncover new microscopic features, explore new error classifications, and revisit old assumptions with fresh knowledge. The 1969 cent has become an academic subject, a collectible, an investment, a piece of art, and a symbol of the unpredictable nature of rarity. And every time a new discovery is made, the legend grows larger. The market surrounding this coin is like a living creature, changing, evolving, reacting. When a new specimen appears, even for inspection or private sale, the entire community becomes alert. Forums light up. Auctions prepare. Appraisers gather. Investors whisper. For a brief moment, the world of numismatics holds its breath, waiting to see if the newest find is genuine, rare, and valuable beyond imagination. And if it is, history is rewritten again. Imagine an auction hall filled with silence as a rare 1969 error cent is presented under bright lights. The audience leans forward. Cameras flash. Bidding begins slowly, but then the numbers start to climb. 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. Voices rise. Cards go up. Adrenaline fills the air. By the time the final bid echoes across the room, a new chapter has been added to the legend. And somewhere, far away in a quiet room, a collector watching the event online looks at their own 1969 penny and wonders, could mine be next? The ending of this story is not an ending at all, but a beginning. The 1969 1-cent coin continues to inspire the next generation of coin hunters, collectors, and dreamers. It teaches us that hidden value exists everywhere, that sometimes the smallest object holds the biggest surprise. It encourages us to look closer, to pay attention, to never assume something is worthless simply because it is small. Every time someone picks up a penny from the ground instead of walking past it, they do so because the legend of coins like the 1969 cent has taught them that even the humblest items can be priceless. And so, as this long journey reaches its final emotional moment, imagine this. Somewhere out there, in a drawer, a jar, a dusty box, or a forgotten envelope, there may be another 1969 error cent waiting to be discovered. It may sit quietly, unnoticed, surrounded by common coins that hide its brilliance. But one day, a curious hand will pick it up. A beam of light will catch its surface. A magnifying glass will reveal its secrets. And in that instant, another life could change forever.